click the button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just checking whether it's gone. If we started on that. Already, shall I turn it off? No.
I think Facebook is live. I just got a notification.
Are you able to check?
Yeah, Facebook is working. Yes, this one's working too. The YouTube one is working too, I think.
You sure? Already, shall I turn it off? I think the problem is maybe YouTube is a problem.
And I think it's working. YouTube is working. I've got it logged on from another device.
Okay, let's get started. Hopefully we don't have a problem. Okay, so Namaste viewers, thanks for joining us on live Q&A session on Hinduism. We do it every Saturday at 2 p.m. UK time. The format is we start with a focus video on a particular topic, and then we discuss the topic, and then we have a Q&A sessions where we take viewers' question and answers. Please do send us your questions on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching from. We'll start the video and we'll take the questions from there. So just play the video now. So I'll need to go to share screen.
I think if you go to share screen and then take the two buttons at the bottom for the sound, then it'll just come off. Should come up.
It's not giving me much options.
Vijay,
are you able to share that?
Yeah, okay. What is, I don't have the link. Can you put the link in chat and I can start it here?
Okay, sure. Let me put the link. There it is.
Yeah, got it. Okay, wait here. It's not coming away with me. No. Can I do Control-C? Okay, wait, hold on, yeah. Can't cut and paste here, that's why so. I can't copy the link for some reason from.
If you search on YouTube Hindu Academy and Rituals,
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. YouTube. I choose. Yeah.
and then it's the 5 reasons for rituals in Hindu practices, the title is.
Okay. In the academy. Rituals. Rituals. 5 rituals. Yes, of Hindu practice. I got that.
I got, maybe
Yeah,
I got it.
I got it. Yeah. 1
Okay.
second. Yeah.
Playing now.
Oh, you got it as well. Okay.
Namaste.
Oh, sorry, it's the wrong one. That was a Hindi video. Sorry, I've got the wrong one. Let me play. Okay,
I have it up.
over to you.
Okay. So if we
Okay.
stop sharing. Okay. Yeah, I'll bring it up. Yeah. Okay. Right. Here we go. Yeah. 1 second. So if I now do screen sharing. Okay. Share sound, optimize video clip. Hopefully you can see this.
It's not just forms and attributes that make people pursue a certain path. Each of these gods is worshipped in a particular way, following certain rituals. Should it not be more spiritual? Can you explain a little bit more about the necessity and relevance of these rituals?
One of the things that we must not ignore in every tradition, including the Hindu tradition, is the role of rituals, liturgy. If you ask any family or your pandits and your pujaris, why do we do this? Why do we tinkle bells? Why do we have to visit the temple? Why should we go on pilgrimage? Why do we need rituals? Why do anything in the name of religion? Hindus have never thought about the why question. We do it because tradition. Our forefathers were doing it. There is nothing wrong with tradition. The negative part is if you do it without actually thinking about it, without rationalizing it, it can become seriously counterproductive. There are 5 reasons why we do any ritual. The first reason is life is so fast. We are so caught up in our daily routine, eating, drinking, burping, working, etc., that we lose track of our spiritual aspiration. We require a pause in your fast daily life where you can think of something lacking in yourself. It allows you the space, even 5 minutes every day, to at least focus on something higher than just your material life, just your mundane life. People don't realize how important it is. The second reason why rituals are very important is they are a symbolic gesture. Symbols are very important in every field, including science, physics. Symbolism is not something to vilify. You need to make a symbolic gesture to the idea of spirituality, whether you do meditation or whether you do daily worship or visit a temple or go on pilgrimage or carry out certain religious ceremonials. It's a symbolic gesture. It is subtle. Why do you offer flower? There's a symbolic reason. What's the reason? We're saying we are offering our heart. We can't offer a physical heart. Why do you light a lamp? It's a symbolic gesture to say, I want to go from ignorance to illumination, go from darkness to light, be awakened to the idea of spirituality. Why do they use incense stick? Trying to engage all our senses to think of spirituality. And the moment you enter a room where this incense stick is burning, your mind seems to get uplifted for no reason. Same thing with the tinkling bell. Do you think God is sleeping? Creation will end. We say it's a symbolic gesture, but the technical reason is this. When you tinkle little bell, your attention is immediately focused on that tinkling sound and other sound is blocked out. It engages all your senses. The third reason why we do any ritual in the name of religion is because any discipline you impose on yourself will have certain consequences. And discipline focuses your attention on spiritual progress. The fourth reason is law of karma. Activity you do in the name of religion will bear some fruit. There's a fifth reason that Hindus have incorporated their religious tradition without actually acknowledging it, health reasons. They pass it off as religious injunction so you don't forget it. So it's important to recognize the different reasons why we do rituals, any ritual in the name of religion.
So I get your 5 points about the need for rituals, but Hindus seem to have taken it to another level completely. How can Hinduism progress further?
The Hindus have actually stopped evolving by being fixated on ritualistic practice without realizing why they are doing it. If you know why you are doing it, then you can move with the times. But if you don't know why you are doing it, you are stuck in a rut. And majority of Hindus are stuck in a rut. So they'll do certain rituals without realizing why they are doing it, what's the significance of these 5 reasons. Once you know that, then you can evolve with the times. Say, for example, offering flower was a symbol of offering my heart. Now I can buy a card from the shop, say, Vishnu, I love you, and offer a card to God. A symbolic gesture for his birthday. That means you are prepared to evolve with the needs of the world that you live in.
Thank you, Nisit Bhai, for sharing that video. So today's topic is rituals, why we do it, and we will look at the various reasons why and various rituals. So we saw how important rituals is. Is there any rituals we should be doing every day, Sitaben?
So it really depends on your personal temperament. Suppose you're very devotional by nature. For you, worshipping God with form is probably the best approach, because you want to build a relationship of love with that particular form of God. So for you, a ritual might involve puja, it might involve worship and meditation on that particular form of God. But suppose you've got a non-theistic approach to spirituality. Suppose you love being very active, but you're very active by nature. For you, that sort of worship or that ritual is going out into the community and doing something positive for the rest of your neighborhood or whatever it is. So it very much depends on your personal temperament, but just having that little pause in your everyday life is something that's extremely valuable. And it's something that I've sort of learned to appreciate after many years as a child being told, you should take a pause, take a break from your everyday life and meditate for a minute or two. Actually, the school that I went to very much promoted that idea. At the beginning and end of every lesson, they made us pause for a minute. And as a child, you're like restless and you're like, come on, I want to go and have lunch now. But as an adult, you'd start to appreciate the value of it, just having that break to think about something higher. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think that's good points. And the key thing is that I think, as Jaybai mentioned, that a couple of aspects to rituals: discipline, focus of the mind, right? Also health benefits. So I think in general they're very good, and actually that makes you alive with religion. But the key thing is not to get carried away just because somebody says so. It's because it can become mechanical sometimes. And I've seen that some priests have really great pride. I can do this very accurately. And I can do this puja for 3 hours. And you ask why? Because I'm praying to God. But then if you ask what is the symbolism behind that, sometimes I don't know. So if you become very ritualistic without knowing how it affects us spiritually, then I think we have kind of lost the plot. But nevertheless, it's important to have really rituals. And as Sita said, in modern days, it could be other forms of activity which can discipline or focus the mind. But nevertheless, whatever activity you do, it has got a important aspect in terms of focus, discipline, and even a pause in your life. Because the life is currently so active and so fast moving, we need that pause. And rituals is one way. Like puja in the morning, when you do puja in the morning, you tend to block out everything else, the worries of work on the day or your studies. And those 5 minutes, you just focus and kind of still your mind. So a lot of benefit in rituals. So we have to be careful to do it the right way. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. So Vijay Bhai, one ritual or that seemed to be very important is something called yagna. So could you please explain what is yagna? And there seems to be use of fire, and fire seems to be very important in ritualistic practice. So what is the importance of fire in these rituals? Okay,
so fire has always been very important to Hinduism. As a matter of fact, the very first verse in the Rig Veda, Agni Vide Purohita, so I bow to Agni. In effect, it's been used since the ancient times. Actually, I would say that in earlier times, fire was even more used, because fire was seen as a symbol of actually power, purity as well. That's why even in the case of weddings, we use fire as a witness, because it's seen as reliable, unlike humans, but not reliable. Or in weddings, so actually even if you look at the story of the Ramayana, when Sugriva and Ram were kind of made friendship, they actually used fire to do as a witness to say, okay, I'll support you, support me. And that's like a contract in a way. So fire was very, very important in those days. But having said, the key thing of fire is basically for yagna part is basically to offer sacrifices to connect to higher beings. So that's the ancient time. Fire was very important. Actually, a lot of people used to do, havans. As a matter of fact, in the olden days, in the middle of the courtyard, we actually had a havan kund, and you do rituals and pujas to link to higher beings. Basically, the word sacrifice or yagna in terms of really means to give up something. In those days, give up your time, give up, some of your maybe grains to connect to higher beings. But nowadays, I would say a yagna or sacrifice, anything you do, if you give some lower thing up for a higher thing, then it's like a sacrifice. But having said that, fire has always been very, very important in Hinduism since ancient times. Yeah, Sita Ben, add.
Yeah, I think you've covered it amazingly. So, I mean, as you said, fire is the eternal witness, and that's why it's used in so many ceremonials, including things like weddings as well. Fire is a very central thing because the couple go around the fire to represent the four times to represent the four aims of Hindu life. So it has a great deal of significance throughout ancient times, and it's one of those wonderful things that, it's the connectivity from ancient to modern, really. So it's a wonderful thing to use.
Wonderful. Would you, in terms of doing rituals, we see it sort of connects us from and keeps that spiritual connection between ourselves, our mundane daily life, and our spiritual progress in a way. Would you recommend any particular ritual or anything that some day, minimum like 5 minutes a day, that would help them progress spiritually, Sitaben?
And it's one of those things because you have to decide for yourself. So Hinduism is very empowering in that sense, because what could be a very useful sort of ritual for one person may actually be counterproductive for somebody else. For somebody, meditation for 5 minutes a day may be amazing for your spiritual progress, but for somebody else of a different temperament, maybe meditation isn't the right way. Maybe it's, doing something for the community. Maybe it's praying to a particular form of God, whatever it is. So that's the wonderful thing about Hinduism. It's not so prescriptive. It just provides a range of different types of guidance, and it's up to you to make the decision as to what is right for you. Whatever makes you feel sort of uplifted and charged, you're going in the right direction. Anything which makes you feel depressed and dull is taking you in the wrong direction. So you have to be your own judge for what's best for your own spiritual progress. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think Sita, you have covered it quite brilliantly. Yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, for me, it's just 5 minutes closing my eyes and just trying to block everything away for a few minutes and just kind of calm the body and the mind. But as Sita said, it depends from person to person. Even for children, it's actually quite nice if you can do it, but that's a different way, maybe to focus on an interesting toy or something, or just to draw something or look at flowers, in the garden. And so there are many ways of doing that. But yeah, we need that pause and kind of calm to still our mind. It's always hectic. And so, yeah, that's all I can do to that, Manish.
Jaybai mentioned there are some health benefits to rituals as well. Should we be doing yoga or Surya Namaskar every day? And that sort of ritual can help with health benefits, Vijay?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. I mean, like Surya Namaskar or yoga, I think, yes, we should do those kind of activities, yes, or that kind of rituals, because they do two things. If normally, most people do exercise, they do Zumba class and I don't know, to some music. This is another clever way of doing it, because not only makes you do exercise, but links you with the higher things, right? Like nature or the beauty or the sun. So same technique, but without music, but another technique using some other kind of, connections. So why not do that? Yes, you get kind of two in one, basically. So yes, absolutely. Yes, we should do rituals for health benefits. That's very important. I mean, there are other benefits as well, like sitting down or doing all kinds of, or even as Sita mentioned, doing spiritual activity. Yeah, like some work in the kitchen, in a communal kitchen, whatever. These all activities which have got two benefits. You're doing a ritual, you're feeding people, at the same time is helping your body. Yeah, Sita Ben?
I mean, another sort of part of it is during a lot of festivals, people tend to fast. And these fastings are kind of, in a way, have a health benefit as well, because you're kind of restricting your diet. You're not just eating and drinking anything and everything. You have to think very carefully about what you're taking into your body. So in a way, it's sort of like that sort of mental discipline feeding into your physical well-being as well. So that's another sort of wonderful thing, is you're kind of, as we've been talking about, this idea of sacrificing the sort of the lower benefit in order to gain the higher benefit, essentially. And another sort of thing which it reminds me of is how important it is what kind of food that you take into your body, because you need to have a physically fit body in order to progress in spirituality. And that's what Patanjali talks about in the whole Raj Yoga system. First, you must have a physically fit body. That's why it sort of promotes the idea of Hatha Yoga. But people seem to think that's all there is to yoga. There is so much more. That's just the beginning step of yoga. And there's so much more in terms of mental and spiritual progress that you need to do. But a physically fit body is essential for making that spiritual progress. Otherwise, your mind is constantly drawn to your aches and pains and your ailments, and it cannot focus on anything higher. So it's extremely important to have a physically fit body.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay. So one very important, one thing that is very popular, especially I think in North India, is Satyanarayan Katha. How important is Satyanarayan Katha? And nowadays, because we've been to so many, sometimes we know all the story, but should we be coming out with new kathas or maybe story of Sanatan Dharma so that we pass on story of the whole Dharma and explain to them and come up with some new kathas? Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I've been to a lot of Satyanarayana Katha as well. Okay, and I mean, I think for the older generation, even for me when I was young, a lot of moral stories, this Brahmin did this and then Vishnu came and all these stories you get. So it's good. But I know I've seen my children, they are not that much into it because they want to see some modern stories. As I think as Sita mentioned quite a few times, they love Spider-Man and other kind of stories, not that one. But having said that, I think we perhaps need better stories, maybe modern stories to do the kathas. But it's an ancient ritual. But having said that, there is still benefit for a lot of people who like the idea of getting the story. This gives them a chance to show that actually moral values are important and the righteous always wins. This kind of reinforces the fact that we should behave righteously because there is benefit to it. But I think we have to now look at different strategies and perhaps new stories which inspire the modern generation. So we need to have some change. But yes, there's still some value for a lot of people.
I think you covered it amazingly. I mean, that's the thing, is the younger generation are not particularly interested in these kinds of kathas. They're more interested in like Harry Potter or whatever it is. But I think, for older generations, I think doing these kind of kathas and rituals is very, very important to them because they feel that that's their sort of connection with spirituality and religion. So for them, it's extremely important. But for generations like who are currently at school and university at the moment, it's not so important for them. And we are living in a sort of spiritual democracy. So what's right for you has to be done. So for older generation, maybe that's right for you. But for younger generation, maybe you don't want to do a katha. Maybe you want to just, do something, positive for the people around you. You just have to do what's right for you.
Wonderful. One of the viewers is asking, if someone is atheistic Hindu, so not believing gods and goddesses, but want to progress in the atheistic mode, do they need any ritual? And if so, what sort of rituals they should be following?
Okay, a good point, because I think, to be honest, even for I know some atheist Hindus as well. They do use techniques.
Anyone who is focused on more Atman, Brahman, and idea of non-theism, how do they need any ritual?
Yeah, so I think, as I said, Manish, but I have seen some atheist Hindus as well. They do have means to focus. They use either listen to very calm music, some nature music, whatever. So, or even for them, they focus, when they close eyes, they focus on the stars or the cosmos to get a feel of the grandness of the universe. Yes. So that is another way. They see awe and amazement in the universe as it is. So that can be used to focus. So close your eyes for 5 minutes, look at the stars, black holes, or whatever you would like to look at, or even a beautiful plant or nature that you've seen in the park, and focus. That connects you with the world as it is. And that also makes you, in a way, progress in your own manner as a whatever you call it, spirituality, as a human being. So yes, even I think rituals are important for even the people who are atheists as well, or atheist Hindus as we call them. Why not? Yes, Sitaben?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing. I mean, the thing is, as an atheist, you have to sort of find something which kind of focuses your attention. It's like, so then that kind of discipline becomes a meditation for you. So for you, it might be music is your form of meditation, or art is your form of meditation. Just do that for 5 minutes per day, or however long you want to do it for. And it just gives you that sort of feeling of stillness and calm. And it takes you away from all the sort of materialistic stresses of everyday life. So, you know, just find what is best for you in that sense. Very pluralistic by nature.
We got a question from Hemant Kumar. He's saying, why rituals from non-dualistic point of view? I think that's same again, asking why rituals if you are focused on Advaita?
Yeah. Okay, I can have a go. Look, it may sound that okay, I'm Advaita, you know, I'm linking with Brahman. Why? Actually, you'll be surprised. This is not my words, but the words of Swami Vivekananda, who says that no matter how you think you're good at focusing on the Brahman, it is not easy. Except for the very, very few can just flick like Ramakrishna Paramahansa and go in that. We can't. So even if that's even for those people, we actually have to start at some point in a kind of a dualistic manner and trying to focus on something, and then you can progress. As a matter of fact, you'll be surprised that Shankaracharya, even though he was Advait, he has built so many temples to Vishnu and other deities, I mean Shiva, primarily because he understands at one level, at one plane, you have to use a means to focus, and only then you can move to the ultimate. So it doesn't matter who you are, except for very few, we all need things to focus on and still the mind to see our true nature. Sitaben?
Yeah, I mean, it really reminds me of some of the steps which are part of Raj Yoga, because one of the steps is called Pratyahara, which is withdrawing the mind from the senses, and then Dharan, which means like focusing your mind on, you know, a particular thing. It could be a mantra, it could be a form of God, it could be something. So even within this sort of non-theistic approach of making spiritual progress, it's telling you need something to focus your mind on, because as Vijay Bhai was saying, you know, Atman and Brahman, they are amazing to think about, but they're extremely abstract. We need, as a human being, we need something to focus our minds on. So you have to find whatever it is, a mantra, an image, a symbol within Hinduism, or not even within Hinduism, because that's how we make our progress, essentially.
Okay, Jerry is asking how to do dhyan. Or meditation exactly. Please tell the process for beginners. Sitaben?
I mean, you say meditation, but it's extremely difficult, and it's one of the hardest pathways to making spiritual progress. And it can actually take many, many lifetimes to be successful in it. And the steps of meditation, which are prescribed by Patanjali, involve 8 steps. That's why it's called Ashtanga. And the beginning 2 steps, you don't even sit down to meditate in those first 2 steps. You could even spend like 10 lifetimes trying to master the first 2 steps, which involve mental disciplines such as you know, truthfulness, cleanliness, not being reliant on others for gifts, not stealing, being celibate. There's 10 disciplines that you need to master mentally before you're even supposed to be able to be fit to sit down to meditate. So you can imagine how difficult that is. And I remember Dad often used to say that, you know, even if you sort of spend your whole lifetime focusing on one of these disciplines, for example, Satya, truth, and everything you say, what you think, what you say, you do, all match up all the time, you will make tremendous spiritual progress. So start by doing these sort of mental disciplines. And apparently what is said is that if you develop such mental discipline, you then sort of develop these amazing sort of siddhis or powers, which mean that you can sort of see things that are going to happen, or, you know, you can, you know, see things that have gone in the past, things gone in the future. You get all these amazing powers mentally, but you have to make sure you don't get carried away by those sort of siddhis, make sure you focus your attention back onto meditation. But yeah, it's an extremely difficult path, and the path of bhakti is probably much easier in that sense, because you just focus and love on a particular form of God, and you can, get to the same destination ultimately. Vijay?
Yeah, I think, Jerry, it's a very interesting question, because I had the same issue. When I close my eyes, everything rushes in. So what I do is first I introspect. I say, are the problems really actually that big? Like, work issues happening or some family. And when I introspect, I say, actually, you know what? They're not really that big. I can easily clear my mind for higher things. So that's the first thing, to introspect when you start meditating. I said, do I need to really worry about these things? I said, no, you know what? No, I don't need to worry. Then you try and empty your mind and focus on something more interesting, something more lively, something which gives you calm and peace. So first try and analyze what you have, all the worries here, and say, are they really necessary? No, take them out. And then you start slowly. But yes, ultimately you need to have other disciplines. Sita mentioned, those are the key things. Truth, all these disciplines we have. So not stealing, all this. If you leave those I think that's a huge amount of discipline required there. They automatically help you in progressing. So in a way, how you live also makes a big difference on how you progress in meditation, basically. Yeah, but start small. Yeah,
Thank you, Vijay Bhai, for the enlightening answer. So if we look at Raj Yoga and Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and we say this yama, niyama, dhyana, and then pranayama, and then other 4 steps come in, should we not do them in parallel rather than doing one after the other? So say, okay, this is how we need to do all of these, but just start on them and start with even asana and dhyana as well as at the same time, rather than try to master one and then go to other. Should they be done in parallel, or should we do one by one? That's the question. Vijay Bhai?
Okay, a tough one. But all I can say is that if you look at the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I've got a commentary from Swami Vivekananda. Actually, the yams and niyams, I tell you why they're important. Because if you don't master those, the next steps here with dhyana, whatever, they're going to be much more difficult to master. There's no harm. You can try it and do that. But if you want to wait for a long time, long hours, then the yams, niyams that's why they're in that step. Because you need the discipline first to speak the truth, right? If you don't speak the truth, you have this constant, troubling your mind all the time. Oh, I've done this, I've lied. If you have a troubling mind, you don't go steps. But I think there's no harm in doing them. But the idea is that the yams, niyams, and dhyana, dharana, all these steps, the reason why they're there in the sense, because you have to master certain things before you go to the next step. But I agree, as Sita says, to master the yams, niyam is very, very tough. But yeah, do all of them. But remember, focus on the first 2 as well, as much as you can, because I know they're hard, but they require to go. Don't forget, Patanjali has done his experiment himself. It's not an easy experiment. Sita is a very tough experiment, but the rewards are immense, right? So nothing comes free, basically. So it was. But you can do it in parallel. I mean, there's no harm, but try and work on don't forget the yams and niyams. Oh yeah, I'll meditate, go in a yoga class every day. But I don't mind lying, on the side, or that doesn't work. Yeah, so it's a package. So, Sita Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. That's the reason why it's a step-by-step process, is because you need to be mentally ready for it. But it is extremely tough, and probably, I mean, I personally will try and focus on not necessarily Raj Yoga, because it seems really, really almost impossible for somebody like us. For people like Swami Vivekananda and whatever, it just comes at the click of a finger. But for us, it's a lot harder. It reminds me of what Sharada Devi says. If you just repeat the name of God constantly, just sit down and repeat the name of God that you love, you will make a great deal of spiritual progress too. Just make sure it anything that clears the clutter of your mind, repeating the name of God, for example, you will sort of make that progress in a sort of much sweeter and easier way. So yes, please, do try Raj Yoga, but it seems extremely difficult. The path of bhakti, in a way, is much more straightforward.
Okay, we've got an interesting question from Aniruddha 9899. He's saying he's watched Jay Lakhani's video about reincarnation, and where he explained Professor Ian Stevenson's research on children remembering their past lives. And he's saying, don't you think there's some flaw in the research, in the Professor Ian Stevenson's research? And some people have actually gone out and say the research is flawed, he had a bias, and he was trying to prove reincarnation. So Vijay Bhai, was the research flawed?
Okay, all I can say is a couple of things about the research. One is, from what I know, that he did about over 3,000 cases, and only about 30 he actually found really genuine. So it's not like he said everyone is valid. Yes, he found, and then he went quite deep into kind of understanding of the cases. And it's not only him. I think that Arthur C. Clarke, quite a few scientists have worked on this. So there is, in my view, there's very good evidence that there is, but of course the mechanism is not difficult to understand how that happens. But you're right. One thing I must say is that the challenge that Ian Stevenson faces is that his work has not been peer reviewed. And that's the thing in the scientific world. You need to have your work peer reviewed. Then they will accept that, okay, this work is now authentic and published. But unfortunately, the field that Ian Stevenson was in, it was difficult to get a peer to actually review that, because most of them didn't do that kind of work. So it was a bit tough for him in that sense. But I think the thing is that there are some, in my view, there's some really genuine cases that there is some incarnation evidence. But the mechanism is something that, of course, is a question, because we believe that characters are passed across. It's like asking proof consciousness. I mean, from what I know, to this day, science hasn't proved what consciousness is. They all know it comes out from matter. But apart from that, they have not proved it. Because I think I've been to a talk once with a very famous, Vijay Bhai actually, a very famous lady who was a neuropsychologist. And she was asked this, Jay Bhai actually asked the same question, pointed question. But I think she was a brain expert. And she said, I don't know. That was the answer. So there is something in us which actually passes across from life to life, or characteristics passed on. That's what the Hindus, we believe. And something, but of course, you don't remember that because it's too traumatic when you get next life. But in some cases, some remnants remain. That's the idea behind the idea of incarnation. But yes, I think until there is a peer review of work and there's enough people researching these genuine people, then I think it'll become mainstream. Up to that, I think it'll take a while to become, because currently the way science works, if it's not proven by empirical facts based on matter, they will not accept that. That's the level we are, but we are stuck there. I think at some point we'll have to break that barrier and go into the metaphysical. Until that happens, yes, there'll be kind of this lingering question and doubts. See that way?
Yeah, and I think you've covered it amazingly. It's basically because, it's a whole metaphysical sort of theory. It's already biased in a negative way, because a lot of people think, well, surely that's not true. How can that be true? And as Vijay Bhai was saying, we're just sort of, the science community is in a sort of mental rut at the moment in terms of only being able to accept physical and empirical stuff, but they very much forget all this sort of amazing metaphysical stuff, which is being sort of, proved through quantum mechanics. And all of the sort of empirical experiments and science that we do is literally one appearance is proving another appearance, and it's not essentially proving anything. And we're not going to get anywhere until we make this sort of mental leap from the physical to the metaphysical, being able to understand that there is so much more to the world and the universe than pure matter, because matter itself is an appearance.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben Vijay Bhai. So I'll let the viewer know that University of Virginia is continuing to do research on reincarnation. Jim Tucker books, many case studies. So reincarnation research didn't stop with Professor Ian Stevenson. It's continuing it today. There are many researchers who are doing this research and writing case studies. And what is, when we can ask the question, what is the explanation behind this? How are these children able to remember a past life and able to link up with it and able to prove it? What is the other explanation apart from reincarnation theory of Hinduism? And there is no other in there. And if you look at the statistics behind it, it is clear case that it's a reincarnation. But as you said, there are people who do not want to believe, and they will try to find flaws in it. But anyone who is really interested in reincarnation, do your own research, get into it, and you will see what is the truth out there. So keep your open mind, look into research, go for it. That's what we'll say, and you will answer. We'll take a next question. Oh no. I think someone asked, what is Brahman? Sita-Ben, do you want to answer that, please?
That's a really big question and very difficult to explain. Really, you need somebody who is enlightened to really be able to explain it. But we just go by the teachings of the sort of latest modern prophets that we've got. So Brahman is essentially the underpinning to the universe. It's the spirit percolating as the universe. And for sort of non-theistic people who prefer the non-theistic approach, this is just amazing, because as we were talking about, what we're discovering at the sort of cutting edge of science, as we've just been talking about in quantum, is actually proving that the world that we see is not made up of atoms and molecules and physical things. It's actually completely non-material. And this is something that we've discovered through, ancient Hindu philosophy, this idea of Brahman, that the underpinning to the universe is essentially non-material. And sort of modern science is sort of, trying to fudge over it and say it's not really something that we can explain at the moment, but it's something we will be able to explain in future in some kind of physical way. And they sort of refer to it as God of the gaps. But actually what sort of quantum physics is finding is that the gaps are much bigger than the brickwork itself, and the bricks are just floating in air. So the whole sort of idea of empirical science is sort of crumbling in a way with this idea of quantum, and it very much resonates with the idea of Brahman, which we have in ancient Hindu philosophy. So there really needs to be a real mind shift, so to accept this idea that the underpinning to the universe is essentially non-material and metaphysical. And that's what ancient philosophy is finding, and hopefully what cutting edge of modern science will begin to accept soon. Vijay Bhai?
I think Sita, you got brilliantly. I think even as I think it was Werner Heisenberg who said that the essence of all life, or all matter, is non-material, which is very true. But I think even if you look at the Upanishads, they talk about the same thing actually. They talk about the Brahman as something of pure, essence, light, which manifests as what you see in universe. So in effect, there are a lot of kind of synergies between the Upanishads and what quantum mechanics is talking about. So yeah, it's something amazing stuff. Brahman is really amazing, but to experience it, that's a different matter altogether. While to get there, but okay, Manish bhai. Hi, Manish bhai. He's stuck, I think.
Oh,
Sorry, Vijay bhai, there was some technical problems there. So Aniruddha, who asked about the reincarnation, is asked another question: does spirit carry this memory and experiences into one life to another? Sita-Ben?
So, I mean, the spirit is sort of, universal and underpinning to everything. But when it sort of gets caught up in a sort of mind and body framework, it does sort of start to develop a particular characteristic. And that's sort of what we keep identifying ourselves with. So, you have a personality, you have a character, you may be very kind, you may be very cruel, whatever it is. And that kind of character is the one thing that comes with you from one life to another. And it's very important to keep chiseling away at our character throughout our life, because, it's very easy to sort of get caught up and think that success is only based on the size of your house or the size of your car or your bank account. But actually, what's real success is, have you really chiseled a good character for yourself? Because that's the only thing that's going to hold your hand when you go into your next life. So in a way, reincarnation gives us a great deal of perspective on life. It makes us realize what is important and what isn't so important. And yes, this idea of reincarnation means that the character you develop does sort of carry forward. And because it's a metaphysical thing, it's not a scientific experiment that you can prove, an empirical scientific experiment. But that's something that the research by Dr. Ian Stevenson is suggesting. Again, not proving, but suggesting at the moment. Vijay?
Yeah, I think that's brilliantly covered, Sita. All I can add is that, the word we use when the soul transmigrates is Jiva Atman. Because Atman is pure and pristine, is not bound by matter and time and space. Yet when he gets embodied with all this matter, then he feels that it's actually part of that matter. And as Sita said, the characteristics you have which are part of the Jivatma, not the Atman, is what actually transmigrates to the next body and so on and so forth. I think one thing we have to keep in mind is that even the idea of reincarnation that we talk about, samsara, is actually different from rebirth. But we won't cover that in Buddhism. That's a difference. So remember, there are different things. But by and large, what Sita said is how it works. Yeah. Yeah. Manish bhai.
We got an interesting question from Sujay Shrestha. He's saying, I get scared, maybe I will get a bad next life. I'm 16-year-old. Is there anything which I can do to ensure good next life or just rely on luck? Now this is a very interesting question because many religion actually scare people into saying, if you don't believe in our way of life, you're going to go to hell. So there is a scare tactic out there. And I would say some of the even Hindu sampradayas use that to get people in their fold. So should we be scared of what will happen in next life? And can we ensure we'll get a good next life in some way, Vijay?
Look, I mean, people use fear to make sure you behave properly, build a good character. But what if you can do it without fear? That would be the great achievement, wouldn't it? Let's face it. So I think for Sujay, look, he is 16 years old. I know we will make mistakes. At that age, we are very active, hyper. We do things. We don't make up mistakes. We say things we shouldn't say. But the thing is to keep your heart clean and try and do things. Look, you may do an activity hoping it'll come out with a good outcome. It may not come out with a good outcome sometimes. But at least your aim, your aim should be that you want to do something good. And just work on doing good things. And again, look after your body, healthy body, eat good food. And just work then. I think automatically things will come out. And you build a good character. Sita said, chisel your character first. That's the main thing. I know it's hard at that age because everybody's playing, everybody's has egos, I'm better than him. You're trying to show off and whatever. But in all that, try and chisel a good character for yourself and take it from there and then move on. If you do that, then I think you'll eventually have a good reincarnation or maybe moksha as well. But don't fall in this idea of fear, the idea of carrot and stick policy is used by many, even some Hindu women, as I mentioned, that if you do this, you'll go in Narak and you burn in fire for millions and millions of years if you don't do this. But look, if you're going to be doing something because of fear, then I think that's not the right way to do things. You should do things because they're right things to do, not because somebody's scaring the hell out of you. Anyway, Sita Ben.
I think you've covered it amazingly. So as we were saying, it's so important to sort of chisel the right kind of character. And the important thing to remember is to always listen to your heart and do what your heart is telling you. Don't feel under pressure, especially as a teenager. You get a great deal of peer pressure to do things you may not want to do, which you think are not right, but you do it anyway because that's what everyone else is telling you to do. So make sure you follow your heart, be strong and stand up to your peers and be like, no, I don't want to take drugs or whatever it is that, you're getting pressured to do. Make sure you follow your heart and be strong, stand up for yourself. And remember, essentially, you are the spirit. So nothing is really going to come close to touching you, essentially. But remember that you are the spirit and you'll feel strong and empowered and do the right thing.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben. So nothing to worry about. And as you say, law of karma, do good things and things will happen nicely. We take a next question from a WhatsApp viewer. He's saying, what is the difference between alertness and consciousness? Sita Ben, alertness and consciousness.
I think alertness is more sort of linked to the physical body. So you're alert when you are awake and you are not alert when you are fast asleep. So it's more sort of connected to your physical body, are your senses engaged kind of thing. Whereas consciousness is of the nature of the spirit. It's, eternal and universal, and it's the Atman. So it's more a case of, is one encased in a physical sort of body and one is just the essential nature of the spirit. So consciousness is always there, and our whole sort of purpose in life is, yes, you can be alert, but how alert can you be? Can you open your eyes any wider? Whereas with consciousness, that's something that you focus your whole life on, trying to sort of identify yourself as essential consciousness and not the physical body or even the mental mode that you have. Vijay Bhai?
I think, Sita, not much to add. All I can say is, like when you're driving a car, you have to be alert. When you're meditating, yes, then you want to be in a conscious state of pure consciousness. Yes. So, difference with the two.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben Vijay. We got a next question, interesting one from Dusty. He's saying, if all is only consciousness, what exactly is Shiva the destroyer of? Creator and destroyer of what? If the world is Maya, art, illusion, magic, what is he destroying? Vijay,
Yeah, I can have a go. Yeah. Okay, look, there's two things, right? Ultimately, the question, if that question actually ultimately boils down to why are we stuck in this Maya in the first place? That's the key question. But I think there's one thing you remember, that we can see the universe actually in two planes, because it's a very good question, very philosophical question as well. There was once, I think Shankaracharya was, he's an Advait philosopher. And once we went to meet a king, and the king saw him running really, really fast, running out from an elephant climbing a tree. And the king started laughing at him. He goes, just now you're teaching about Advait, everything is illusory, that doesn't exist, yeah, there is no whatever. But now he's running up a tree. So he told, Shankar, look, you're really a hypocrite, because all this is just Maya, but how come you're running away from the tree and climbing a tree? And Shankaracharya goes, the fact that I'm running away from the elephant on the tree, that too is Maya. So basically I transcend the idea of Maya. But you're right. So there's two things to remember here. One thing is that at one level, in the scripture level, when matter exists, then we have three murtis. They're seen as creation, preserver, destroyer. And that works very well at one plane. But ultimately, once we transcend the idea of moksha, transcend all this matter, then to be honest, all that disappears. I'm sorry to say, even the gods will disappear in that sense, because you become one with ultimate. That's why Shiva as well is seen in two ways. One is at our plane, where you can interact with him as a destroyer, and maybe South tradition, preserver. Yet, when you achieve the idea of moksha, then you and Shiva are one at a different plane. So you can see of these ideas actually different planes. At one plane, we need all this to live, to understand to understand where we live and kind of interact with matter. But at one point, if you transcend this Maya, then actually it becomes irrelevant. It's like, Vivekananda, when I think Ramakrishna touched his feet, to the river, and he got, Samadhi, everything disappeared, like this doesn't exist. So there's two ways of two planes of existence. But a valid question. Yeah, you can ask that question. So think of it that way, that in one case, when you achieve moksha, then it's not there. While you achieve moksha, it is there and is real, and you can interact with it. Sitaben?
Yeah, I think the idea of Shiva as the destroyer is, if you're a Shiva devotee, it's very unfair, because you're like, why is my God the destroyer? It's not really fair. So if you're the Shiva devotee, you tend to think of Shiva as the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer. And that's shown in the image of Nataraj. But in terms of destroying and all of that, a lot of, you get a lot of these wonderful mythology and colorful stories, and, you sort of see, Brahma as the creator, Vishnu as the preserver, and Shiva as the destroyer. But remember, these are sort of wonderful, sort of colorful stories. And in a way, they're sort of like allegories for, trying to make sense of the world, essentially, because we recognize that there is all three elements in everything: creation, preservation, and destruction. And these wonderful stories are sort of, in a way, encapsulating it, and they're more like a metaphor, essentially.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben Vijay. We take the next question from Infected. He says, since moksha means losing your individual consciousness, is moksha like permanent deep sleep? Sitaben?
It's in fact the total opposite, because sleep is you're becoming less conscious and less aware, whereas moksha is the sort of ultimate gaining of your identity. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to lose my identity if I achieve moksha, but that is not your actual identity. Your true identity is spirit. It's the sort of unfettered, free spirit. And what more empowering message is there? That is you. That's what Hinduism has said right from ancient times, that is you. So, don't think that you are this tiny, limited person with, this quirk and that quirk, and I like this and I don't like that. Forget all that. That's not important. What's important is that you are the unfettered, free spirit, essentially. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, interesting actually question. Yeah, so, there was once I read a little caption where somebody goes, I have achieved moksha. And the other person asks, I? What do you mean I achieve? Because when you say I, you're still stuck in your individuality. So it's I, still the ego is still there. So really you can't even say that I have achieved moksha. The why I makes it kind of irrelevant. So ultimately you transcend the idea. Look, if you want to be an individual for millions and millions, then how do you connect to the universe? So ultimately, you have to be part and parcel of universal spirit. And that's what it says, that you're actually going to be the Atman in the sense that you're actually one with the Atman. So you lose your individuality. That's the whole idea of moksha. Otherwise, you still have the I, ego in you, which you really don't want. Yeah. Manish, right?
Sir, we take one last question, and then we can wrap up. We got nearly 3 o'clock there. So Andrew Contra is asking, I'm looking for a term that doesn't distinguish between Saguna and Nirguna Brahma. He's looking for a term that doesn't distinguish between Saguna and Nirguna Brahma. Vijay bhai, can you
It
help?
is Brahman itself, yes. Because it's from Brahman that the two come out, yes. So Brahman is the actual term. Then it can be seen in 2 ways, either Nirgun or Sagun, right? So Nirgun means beyond qualities, and Sagun means within qualities, right? But the Brahman itself can be accessed in multiple ways. So the word is really Brahman, I think. There's no other word to describe the two in that sense. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Vijay bhai. So I think with that question, we've come to end of our Q&A session. And as usual, we finished with Swami Vivekananda's quote. And the only quote that I remember by heart is, they alone live who live for others, the rest are more dead than alive. So that says, try to live for others and do things for others, and that will hopefully make you much more spiritual. Have a nice week, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you next week on the same time, 2 p.m. UK time, at the live Q&A session. Thanks for joining us, and please do help us with YouTube, and we have thousands of videos on YouTube. Please do watch them at your leisure. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Say bye and bye, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm going to